This is a quick relaxed video about using these retro handhelds and specifically on Gameboy Color. So every night I go at about 11 p.m. and let the dogs out and I stand at the door and play a couple of games. And last night I was using the RG280V and I was just struck at how nice the image and the picture and all that looks for Gameboy Color on the screen. And then I realized it was stretched to the extremities of the screen, and I thought to myself, I've been going on and on about perfect pixels and integer scaling and all this kind of thing, and so I thought I'd get these two devices out and compare settings and what is the ideal settings for Gameboy Color on your particular retro handheld. And so on this device, I'll quickly show you the settings. My video settings are crop overscan, and then I've left keep aspect ratio off, integer scale is off, and I have the image interpolation is bicubic, and the video filter is the grid 2x. There's a whole lot of filters to give it a retro look and feel. And so that is the preset that came with Atom image on here. Okay, so that's that. And then on the RG350, this is my favorite screen so far on any of my retro handhelds, and so I did this with integer scaling. So here I have integer scaling on, crop overscan on, and then it's bicubic image interpolation go. And here on the Miyoo Mini we have just for interest's sake, I've put keep aspect ratio on. I actually wanted to remove the grid just to show you what a difference it makes specifically for retro games. So when we're doing these retro games, generally for me personally, and probably for you as the viewer, is you're looking for a retro experience. You're trying to rekindle something that you experienced when you were a child. For me, I never actually got to own a Game Boy. It was always my wish. I have this childhood unfulfilled dream of having a Game Boy, and that's probably why I've gotten into this and started making videos about it. And so I had a Famicom. So for me, this is just the ultimate. It's the combination of a Game Boy style device plus the Famicom. And so to make the image look like something that it would have been in the olden days, except on a lovely new modern screen, is great. And so if we zoom in, so let me bring this up. So if you look at that now, and I'll try zoom in a little bit in post-production as well, but that looks really good. You can't see much of the unbalanced pixels. It just looks like a retro game. It looks like an olden day game. Saturation looks good. This RG280V does have lovely saturation. And so just overall, it's stretched over the screen, but you're not seeing any unbalanced pixels. So that's how that looks. The RG350M now is a very, very good screen. It's a better screen than the RG280V, but using integer scaling and no filters on, you can see it's a perfect image. It's very smooth and all that, and that might be something that you're going for, but it doesn't feel like a retro game. You've still got the pixelation of the old game. So the filtering and everything looks really good on the RG280V, and you get it spread across the entire screen without any major visible pixel shifts. So let's look at the famous Miyoo Mini, which famously has a very good screen on it. Personally, I actually prefer the RG350M. I think in a previous video I said this screen is better, but over time and using it more and more, I actually prefer the screen on my RG350M. Not to say that this is a bad screen, but just a side note there. Anyway, so looking here, remember on this one we kept the aspect ratio, but it's filling out the screen, so it's got the black borders on the side. It's not stretching the image. We haven't put a filter on. So this image, okay, so this is where I say I prefer the RG350M. The saturation isn't great on this Miyoo Mini, but that's besides the point. What you'll see is it's a lovely smooth image. Everything looks great, but again, that filter isn't on there, so it doesn't give it that retro feel, and we've got the black bars on the side. But I can't see, if I bring these two side by side, let's just get it in focus. If you look at those two screens, and I'll jump in and out in post-production on either screen. To my eye, the RG280V looks better in this instance. So for retro gaming, I'm preferring the RG280V specifically on the Game Boy Color. Let's quickly switch the Miyoo Mini to the exact same settings so that we're comparing apples with apples. So now let's analyze those screens and let's look for unbalanced pixels and all that. As a side note, the RG280V does look better, but to my eye, and I'll jump back to footage of the Miyoo Mini without the filter and without being stretched across the whole screen, and to my eye, there's no visible difference. And so now you're playing Game Boy Color on a stretched out screen in a retro style, and it just looks cool. And that's kind of the point of this video, is just to express that, is that, you know, with these retro gaming handhelds, I think what sparked this whole thing off is there are some incredible devices coming out. The Retro Pocket 3 Plus has just been released. The Anbernic RG505 has just been released, and they're incredible devices. But the reason I got into this was to play Darkwing Duck on a handheld device, and to play the Famicom system specifically, and Game Boy games. And it looks amazing on any of these devices, and you can stretch it out and it looks great. So one last test I want to show you. So Mega Man has got this life bar at the bottom, and let's go even closer. Let's go as far as I can zoom. You can see that all those pixels are balanced. It's stretched across the whole screen. It's not integer scaling. You know, we go on and on about integer scaling and getting a true to life image and all that kind of thing. That life bar looks great. And the screen is a decent quality. It's better than any of the Game Boys of the past. And you're getting a stretch screen across your device, and it just looks pretty. And so this really wasn't a very technical video, but more just to say, you know, if you are looking to get into this and you have been watching lots and lots of videos, the device that you buy is the device that you're going to enjoy. And most of these devices are just stunning. Anbernic, their catalog, they might have some pros and cons on a lot of their devices, but all of their devices, especially for these older retro games, are incredible. And then as a very final note, I just wanted to mention this Miyoo Mini. I was just remembering when I first got it, the retro feels I was getting from playing this game. I think I got the Miyoo Mini and I immediately started playing Super Mario World, because it's a game that I always wanted to play, and I played it all the way through in a couple of days, just because it gives those incredible retro feels. So the Miyoo Mini, as powerful as it is for a tiny little device, I highly recommend it for anyone that's looking for a Game Boy device. If you're looking for something to play these Game Boy games, it really is stunning. And so as a side note, this is actually playing at integer scaling. It's using one of the built-in filters that come with the device. And it's just such a great feel. You know, it is a little bit cheaper feeling than the Anbernic devices, but that kind of adds to that whole retro experience. So if you have been shopping around and you're looking for something that gives you that Game Boy retro feel, I definitely recommend the Miyoo Mini. Anyway, that was me just sharing some thoughts about retro games and the retro scene, and specifically a Game Boy Color on screens. I hope that gave you a little bit of insight into retro games and just enjoying it for what it is. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next one.